Why do you think they're called mistletoe?
What does the flower look like?
It'll either build up water pressure in the berries and explode.
I was like, I put some in his coffee.
Mistletoe roughly translates to dung on a twig.
Mistletoe 2, the burying.
I like it.
We have a movie.
Welcome back to the Helpful Gardeners podcast. Well, this past weekend, Colin, I really want to start off this week's episode because the Golden Acre Community Market was on and I met somebody. This sounds like we're dating.
I know, right? Ooh.
Brad's going to be so upset. No, so the loveliest lady came up to me while we were doing Santa photos and she was just like, hey, I watched the podcast.
Yay!
Yeah, isn't that awesome?
That is awesome.
So her name's Pauline, and she was the one that said that she thought Jimmy was a boy.
Oh!
It was so cute because she came up. She's like, I was that person. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm meeting that person. I got so excited. So I first of all thanked her so much for actually coming up and saying hi, because that's something that we constantly say on the podcast. You know, if you see us in store, we're with Golden Acre Home and Garden in Calgary, Alberta. If you see either Colin or myself around in the store, come up and say hi because we'd love to say hi. And
even if we look busy.
Even if we look busy. Like,
I want to put that out there because we had somebody comment that one time where they said, I saw Colin, but I didn't want to bug him. He looks busy or something. We are busy, but we're never too busy to stop and say hi.
Exactly. And ask us questions. If there's something gardening related, if there's something you're interested in and you're just like, hey, can you guys talk about that on the podcast? Like, would love it. And on that same note, you know, even over on Spotify, and I think Apple has the opportunity as well, but you can go in and you can send us voice notes. And so if you have something to say about the show, or if you would love to learn something more, then drop a voice note in and then we'll get it and we'll share it.
And we'll play it on the podcast and you'll be like the third co-host.
Yes. Ooh, guest co-host on the Helpful Gardeners podcast.
Oh, that is so awesome because I remember that story about Jimmy because we ended up having to include a picture of him because of the way I talk about him, and you actually met Pauline. It
was so funny because I was telling her how I totally related because I love animals that have like old man names like Norman or Ben or something like that. And so I was like, I completely understand where you're coming from. And so, it was like that extra bit of flavor in the podcast.
Well,
and
his real name is James.
Oh.
Yeah, he goes by Jimmy for short. So, I'm wearing the right colors. So I'm a Newcastle United fan. I was born and raised there. And they play in a stadium called St. James's Park, and Jimmy is black and white.
Yep.
So we named him James after St. James's Park. But he doesn't suit James. He's rough and tumble, so he goes by Jimmy. There you go. That's the full story. So his real name is actually James. Yeah. His nickname is Jimmy.
I love that. See, there you go. So thanks so much for reaching out to us at the Golden Acre Community Market. It was a wonderful time, by the way. We met a lot of folks there, a lot of great local small businesses. And if you caught last week's episode on our garden guide, check that out because, this time of year, we're kind of getting into that kind of season and it can be kind of hard to shop for gardeners. So there's that resource for you. But this week, we're doing a deep dive into a plant. Oh. One of the specialty kinds of plants that you'll see around this year. How much do you know about mistletoe?
Probably not enough to fill a podcast. It's okay. A couple of facts. Facts. Things I know about it. I've never really done much with it. Poisonous. People smooch under it. It's parasitic, and it's got a pretty big growing range. Like there's European, Middle East, North America.
And that's probably more than the common knowledge of the mistletoe, because to be honest, before I looked into this, I didn't really know a lot about mistletoe. I knew we tried to carry it in the greenhouse one year, but it was just so hard to guarantee, right? I think that was what it was. I know we had to refrigerate it. Do you remember? Yeah,
it was. It's tricky because it can't be frozen. Like you can't go in tree lot with our Christmas trees. But you can't leave it sitting out because it's a cup plant, so it'll just wither up and be done for.
Yeah, exactly. I think nowadays you're more so likely to find them artificial than real, especially in Canada. You might have more luck, say you're listening from the States, or I just did our Spotify wrap up and we found out 12 countries have listened to us before. So maybe in your country, you might be able to find some mistletoe. But let's kind of dive more into what the mistletoe is and how it grows and what it's used for. So this is what's called a hemiparasitic plant, which means it gains nutrients from another plant, and in this case, more likely, a tree. Mistletoe doesn't kill the host like some parasites. It'll more so just stunt the growth in some cases. There's like 1,000+ varieties of mistletoe. There's like pine mistletoe. So like if you can think of like a tree variety, there's a mistletoe for that. And sometimes mistletoe will even grasp onto other mistletoe. So sometimes you'll see like chains of mistletoe coming off of trees.
That's cool.
But unfortunately, it's not like at that point, you're not getting as much nutrients as if you were to latch onto a tree, right? So it's more weaker at that point.
I know. So one of the reasons why I knew mistletoe was parasitic, simply for this, is what you were saying about stunting growth.
Yeah.
But it can also form like unsightly lumps and whatnot because the other plants like, I don't want you involved here.
Yeah.
And it can cause like swelling and other plants, and it can weaken limbs, which invites disease. And that's why a lot of people are like ruthless about it. If they see it, they're cutting it back, they're killing it, they're getting rid of it immediately.
Yeah.
So that was kind of what I knew about it being a parasite, but so a parasitic toxic plant. Oh, well.
I know, right? And I think what's interesting is that it's one of the few things that are still kind of green in winter because it does suck out the nutrients all year round. It can withstand itself throughout those cold winter months. And it's one of the few flowers, other than like the Christmas cactus and stuff like that, that will actually bloom during the winter months. It will primarily bloom kind of between like January and March. And there are even varieties that will grow in the northern climate, like Canada, but they're you can pretty much find them everywhere, like you mentioned. So like there's a few, but it's very rare because they have to be able to withstand like -20 frost. Again, it's rare, but it could happen if you have the right conditions. Kind of like anywhere in Canada, like if you have the right conditions, you could probably grow anything.
Yeah,
but
again, we're looking at you, Vancouver.
I know, or that heat sink in your yard where you can grow cedar, you know. It also said that mistletoe is and I'm so sorry for the pronunciation of this word, but it's dioecious plant, meaning that male and female flowers grow separately on two different plants. Mistletoe will bloom after 5 to 7 years. It takes that long.
Wow.
It is a very slow growing plant, which also made me believe maybe this is why it's so hard to find, to buy. You know, it's like if you think about when you sit down for a feast at Thanksgiving or Christmas, a feast is like a collection of food that is more luxurious, harder to find. Like you're not going to be like, I mean, maybe nowadays, like you can find, get a, like a more easily common found carrots or whatever for dinner, right? Yeah. But like historically, if you were to sit down for a feast, it would be more of those luxurious like brie or something of that caliber. Maybe it's the same with mistletoe because it's so slow growing and hard to find. Maybe there's something to be said about.
Well, it's also, I mean, you think about most of the plants that we have, be it tropical plants, perennials, even right now for Christmas. And what do we have the most of? We have for right now, since we're talking about mistletoe, but we have cedar boughs and we have balsam fir and pine. They all grow, and you can harvest from them without killing the plant.
Yes.
Okay, and the cedar is its own plant. But now you're taking a slow-growing flower. You specifically need the berries to kiss under, because the traditional one is the 2 leaves with the berries.
Yeah.
And it's a parasitic plant. You can't just grow it. You have to host it onto something, and it requires that amount of time. So imagine it's a bit of a nightmare. Unless you're finding it in the wild and you can harvest it.
Yeah.
But then there's no guarantee that you're going to be able to get it again the next year.
Yeah, exactly. Like, how can you manufacture that on a larger scale?
I mean, it would be doable, but I think it would be cost prohibitive. Like, how much are you going to spend to put up a sprig of mistletoe for a couple of smooches under it before you throw it away? You can buy a bundle of cedar this big for like $15 and do 3 planters. And one thing of like mistletoe, you're like, $34, please.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. And it's so funny how, we believe in the idea so much that we're like, oh, well, the real thing's too hard. So we're going to make artificial. And we still stand by it, even though it's much easier to find now because it's artificial.
Yep.
100%.
Yeah.
I don't get it. Even, and this plant was even strange because there was a botanist by the name of Carl von Tubuff. I'm so glad I waited till you drank something. So in the 20th century, he said nothing about this plant is normal.
That's a pretty good summation.
Yearbook picture, mistletoe, nothing
Yeah.
about me is normal.
Yeah. Voted most likely to be weird.
Yeah, literally neurodivergent in plants. But yeah, essentially it doesn't need soil. It doesn't really have roots. It bears fruit in winter. Like,
Yeah, because it literally like bores into the wood of other
Yes.
plants and kind of taps the veins.
exactly. Okay, so let's talk about how they grow, because that's exactly it. This feels like one of those like nature, National Geographic, like, and now we start with
Yeah.
a seed.
Here we are in the wild, looking at the mistletoe as it chooses its host partner.
The female mistletoe ejects a berry covered with a sticky substance called viscin.
Called what?
Viscin?
Viscin, okay.
Viscin. So it allows the seed to attach to the branches of trees, stick there, and then it's like a seed.
Get
So,
out of here.
yeah.
I always wondered how it got there. So it
Yes.
literally glues itself on.
It glues itself on there. The seed.
It's like, I'm not going anywhere.
Yes.
That is wild.
Yeah. Okay. So then it produces. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't know this, and I'm super excited. I really got to calm down over plants, but I didn't know that. And so that makes the vast majority of the time when we think about a plant that forms a berry, what we picture is then that berry drops, it decays, the seeds go into the soil, they're fed by the decaying fruit that's around it, and then the seed grows up.
Yeah.
But in this place, that's not what happens, yet it still needs the berry in order to propagate.
See, I think in some cases, because there are two, I feel like maybe this source was like, got a little bit confused. I feel like it was the seed that has the sticky substance, because there's a couple of different ways in which the mistletoe will reproduce. It'll either build up water pressure in the berries and explode.
That's not where it's
Sometimes 50 feet. Just
God.
or birds like the sugary,
Okay.
part of the sugary goodness, especially in the winter when resources are very slim, and then their poop will carry the seed.
Okay, yep.
So, like, I feel like either the seed has the viscin viscin, or the fruit does in the ones where it like will explode. I don't know.
And like you said, there's so many varieties.
There
like,
is, exactly.
We're doing broad strokes
Yes.
here. Like anything, if you start getting into it, but that's either way. The seed is the propagation, but it might not be through traditional means of like the bird
Yes.
eating it and growing it that way. It can also be like, hey, we're now besties.
Because like if you think about it, the real estate, right? You
Yeah.
need to land on a tree. You can't grow in soil. Like, what are your options here?
Yeah.
You either get carried by a bird.
Now, here's the other thing too, though. If you're in a clumped forest and you form a berry and it drops, you
Yeah.
could land on another tree.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, but that is
My
what a
thought-
survival technique.
I'm like, okay, so it builds up water pressure and it shoots the seed out. And I'm like, does it aim? Does it?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it doesn't think. Like, does it just think like, I don't know how many seeds, there's probably only one seed per berry. So, I mean, it's taken them 5 to 7 years to produce berries. And then they're going to eject the seed and then just hope that a tree is nearby,
I mean, that's
the right tree.
basically like kind of how nature is.
Like,
And obviously
just-
it works, because if it didn't, it would have died out a long time ago.
Exactly. Okay, so talking
So
about the
cool.
germination. Okay, so going back to germination, it then produces a stem and then a root-like structure that's called a sinker. And the sinker is kind of like a funnel suction kind of thing, and it goes right into the host, and then that's where it will take all of the nutrients, kind of like tapping into a vein, all the nutrients from the tree into
I feel
the
like
plant.
this would be like a horror story for plants. Yeah. Like the other plants in here are like, whoa.
Next
whoa.
Halloween.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
Story about the
yeah.
mistletoe. Yeah, it's quite
It
scary.
can shoot its seeds 50 feet. It has a stinker. Coming to
Not a
theaters.
a sinker.
A stinker, sinker, potato. Mistletoe 2, the
Yeah.
burying.
I like it.
We have a movie.
Horror Christmas movie. So that's exactly how the mistletoe works.
What does the flower look like?
That's a good question.
Yeah, like I'm curious.
find out.
Like what the flower is and what the pollinator is.
Yeah. Okay. So they're kind of like, if you can imagine a lipstick plant,
Yeah.
and the red flower from it, it's sort of skinnier than that, and it just kind of, Like it looks. What are these like little under the sea animals?
Oh, urchins.
Urchins. They look like an urchin, don't they?
Yeah, I can see it. You know what it looks like? It looks like just the stamen and pistil without any petals around it.
Yes,
it looks
actually,
like it forgot to develop petals.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely.
When you think of mistletoe, you don't think of that until you were talking about the berries and germination. I'm like, well, then what's the flower?
Here I am just worried. The birds can eat them. That's all I know.
But okay, so here's the cool thing, and this is the cool thing about our podcast. Mm-hmm. We learn things too.
Yeah.
I've never had nobody's asked me for mistletoe. Nobody's ever said, can we grow this in my garden? I've only known about it I've never even heard it in Canada. Mm-hmm. It was only in England. I wasn't much of a gardener. I left England when I was 15. Mm-hmm. So never really knew too much about it. That's why I know this much. Mm-hmm. So it's so cool learning this. Because again, what would you think? Oh, Christmas, you kiss under it. That's it. Yeah, that's mistletoe.
That's about as far as most knowledge. That's how far my knowledge went for the longest time too. Why do you think they're called mistletoe?
Because the long flowers look like toes, and it shoots its seed 50 feet like a missile. So it's a missile toe, and we shortened it and made it mistletoe. That was a pretty good answer.
Really great guess. I half expected you to tell me that it was a missile attached to a toad.
Yeah. Oh.
And so, like,
can I re-answer, please?
But this is where the legend goes. Apparently, the Anglo-Saxons noticed that mistletoe grew where birds left their droppings. Remember, birds eat the berries. So mistletoe roughly translates to dung on a twig.
Okay.
I don't know in what language, but...
That really takes the romanticism out of kissing under it. Would you like to kiss under the mistletoe? No, I'd like to kiss under the dung on a twig. So kissing under twig poop. Got it.
Oh my gosh. So if you're at a party, there's your party quiz trivia.
Yeah.
As you mentioned at the beginning of the episode, mistletoe, no bueno for eating. It is also not great for pets. Poisonous to them, but for some reason, birds can still eat them.
Yep.
So I guess that's kind of like depending on the species, what you can and cannot eat.
I mean, there's certain lakes where, can't remember the actual name of it now, but beaver fever. Mm-hmm. But there's certain animals that can drink out of it.
Yeah.
Excuse me, my coffee went down the wrong way.
Colin's eating a mistletoe. We're about to find out what happens.
Yeah, Brandon's like, I put some in his coffee. Let's see what happens next. Will shock you.
And now I'm finishing this episode on my own. So we've established that the berries are toxic. You should not eat them. You should not let your family eat them or your pets.
You shouldn't eat any part of it, though.
No. Oh, right. That's right. We did find that out.
Yeah.
No part of the mistletoe should be eaten. So no salads.
Yeah, no salads.
What would you say if I said that it's been used in cancer research?
I mean, with everything that we've just said, I would be like, causing cancer?
Yeah, yeah, right? Like, it seems like when you put those words in the same sentence, it's like...
Knee-jerk reaction is what?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
However, if something is toxic, why could it not be toxic to also the cancer cells?
True enough.
And if it has a localized effect, because so I'll be honest, I don't know what the toxicity of mistletoe is.
Me neither.
I don't know if it's like, is it toxic, you eat it and your mouth goes numb and you're like, or are you throwing up or are you dropping dead? Mm-hmm. I don't know what the toxicity level is, but maybe it's regionalized toxicity and it kills cells and it kills cancer cells. I have no idea. I'm just literally spitballing now.
Yeah, exactly.
But
I feel like you have a point there. I read somewhere online that they basically said that it's not likely to kill you. It will create a bad reaction. Okay. However, it has been known to help patients who are going through chemotherapy to sort of curb some of the side effects that come with that.
Oh, no way. I thought it was that. Oh, interesting.
So back in 1920, there was an Austrian philosopher by the name of Rudolf Steiner, and he had first recommended to use the extract of the mistletoe as a potential treatment for cancer.
Wait, he was a philosopher?
He was a philosopher.
And, okay, no, I mean...
you can be into different things.
I'm just saying, I think I'd rather take medical advice from WebMD than from a philosopher.
Okay, but then here's a follow-up. Then Dutch physician Ida Wegman was the first to use it in person. So like then a physician was like, oh, okay, like I can kind of see where you came from with that. Let's try it.
Okay.
And it ended up working. So not a lot of research on it, obviously, because like this is my first time hearing about it. Like,
ditto.
This is not a mainstream thing. However, mistletoe extract has been shown to kill cancer cells in test animals and to boost the immune system by adding to the number of white blood cells. It's been shown to lower the side effects of chemotherapy and radiation therapy and help quality of life.
White berries equals white blood cells.
Oh,
yeah.
No.
Hey, that's my philosophical take.
I was going to say, now you're the philosopher and we're taking medical advice from you?
Do you know, though, fun trivial fact here, the number one, you ask people what is the number one berry, color berry that is poisonous?
Yeah.
Most people go red.
Yeah.
Okay, no, we eat a lot of red berries.
Not holly.
No, not holly, but strawberries, raspberries.
Oh, right.
The number one color of berries to stay away from and not eat is white.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder why.
Name one white berry that we eat regularly.
Oh, yeah, I guess.
Exactly, right? Like, maybe, I mean...
Like a lychee? No, a lychee's a nut.
Yeah, like...
Thing.
The grape, maybe?
Yeah, but a grape's green.
I know, right? But
yeah, because that's the one I first came to.
I don't trust colors like that because this... Do we have to go back into like Red Onions brandy and the color of them, or the Himalayan blue? That
you know what I really love is white jelly beans because they're marshmallow.
Are they?
They're really good.
I want white jelly beans.
Anyway, back to cancer.
Yeah, right.
Back to cancer.
The helpful gardeners just went from jelly beans to marshmallows to cancer.
Stay in your lane, gardeners.
We got you.
But essentially, a study showed that breast cancer patients who received mistletoe therapy developed significantly less nausea and vomiting symptoms by
That's
chemotherapy.
Fantastic.
However, okay, so you cannot consume this by a pill.
Okay.
Right? We've established that does not make you feel good. It's something like a reaction in your stomach.
Yeah.
So they administer it by so it's injection.
Okay.
Under the skin, into the vein, into the tumor itself. So like you said, like a localized treatment or into body cavities.
I love it. I love learning stuff like this.
Isn't it amazing? It's like mistletoe extract of all things, right?
Plants are awesome.
Plants are awesome. And I tried to even find out what is it about mistletoe compounds that make it, usable in this way. There's a lot of words I just didn't know. So like I can give it a shot, but like they said, the main active compounds are lectins, viscotoxins, flavonoids, phenolic acids, sterols, terpenoids, phenylpropanate. Literally, there's a lot of big long medical words that a gardener would not know. But there's a lot of it's complicated.
It's complicated.
And apparently it works.
Yeah.
However, we are not medical professionals. So, obviously always talk to your doctor about this.
Yeah.
Like I say, there's not a lot of research on it, but it's just interesting the fact that plants like mistletoe, which we normally stay away from, can be used for good.
For how advanced we believe we are, and all the things that we've accomplished as a species, and what we've seen, and that we still unlock mysteries from these plants that have been around for millennia.
Yeah.
And I always think that is so cool, that all the problems that we face and things that are happening, and there are so many answers in plants, and that's why I love them so much.
Yeah.
Everything from the furniture we're sitting on, plants. The podcast studio, plants.
Yeah.
Right?
My tea.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. My coffee. There are so many things that it's all plant. You know that meme? Oh, it was always this. It always has been.
Yeah.
That's the meme. It's plants. It always has been.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
And we're still discovering.
Yeah.
To this day, we're still learning, and I think that's pretty rad.
I love how we can be doing all these incredible things and still thinking that kissing under them is valuable.
Yeah.
So,
I'm trained to get back to marshmallow jelly beans, but...
No, we're going to get back to something amazing is the reason why we kiss under them.
Okay. I think it's going to have, and I genuinely don't know, and right before we started, like, you were like, we're talking about mistletoe, and I was like, I know nothing about it, and you're like, welcome to the Helpful Gardeners, today's mistletoe. I would have to say, making a guess here, and part of this comes Full disclosure, from Asterix and Obelix comics
Oh my God.
that I used to love, and the druid, whose funny name was Get a Fix. So you're getting a fix.
Oh my gosh.
All their names were great when you get older and you look at them. But I think it has something to do with back in the day and the druids, the religious people, and they would probably use maybe mistletoe was used in a ceremony, in a ceremonial way for like marriage or accepting a spouse, and the druid was involved, and now that's why we kiss under it, like a pagan ritual.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely from like Druid age and from Norse mythology. So apparently this is how it goes. So Odin's son Baldur was prophesied to die. His mother, goddess of love, went to all the animals and plants of the world to secure an oath that they would not harm him. But Mom neglected to consult with the unassuming mistletoe, so scheming god Loki made an arrow from the plant and saw that it was used to kill the otherwise invincible Baldur. According to one sunnier version of the myth, gods are able to resurrect Baldur from the dead. Delighted, she then declared mistletoe a symbol of love and vowed to plant a kiss on all those who passed underneath it. It is associated with fertility and vitality, continued on through the Middle Ages, and it was always kind of a part of Christmas celebrations because it's always around during the holiday season, right? It's one kiss per berry until all the berries are plucked. Then no more kisses. I've never thought that you had to take off the berries.
No, well, and is it per person or is it per, like, so say Jenny and I have some mistletoe and it has 3 berries.
Yeah.
Does that mean when we stand under it, we have to kiss 3 times and then pull all the berries off? Or is it every time we pass under it, we kiss and then we remove a berry?
I think it says men are allowed to steal a kiss from any woman caught under the mistletoe, pluck a single berry from the mistletoe with each kiss, and to stop smooching once they were all gone.
Take a
kiss and then keep plucking berries.
And wow.
So it's like a one-time use?
Yeah.
That would never work nowadays.
No. Like,
you can't even do that with artificial.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was immediately thinking. Artificial, like every time you kiss, you have to ruin it. Like just dripping your berries.
Why don't we do that with things like holly or like it has? But I guess if mistletoe is a symbol of love and fertility and vitality, I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's I've never heard that part of the tradition. I remember seeing it because a little kid and it would be in the house and you'd walk under and your aunt would grab you and give you a kiss and you're like, yeah, gross.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
We never had mistletoe growing up.
Oh yeah, and it was always under somewhere you had to walk. It wasn't in some obscure corner that you were like, I just won't go in that corner. It was in like the doorway between the living room and the kitchen. Mm-hmm. And you're like, well, I want to go get food. Mm-hmm. I got to walk under that. And then, be somebody waiting to pounce on you. But I never knew it was there was like a limitation.
Mm-hmm. And also, isn't it funny how back then it was like men were stealing kisses from women, but nowadays when you hear about mistletoe, it's always like the women who are just like, hi, I'm under the mistletoe.
And that was the thing. It was always like when I walked under it, like one of my aunts or somebody would grab me and kiss, and you're like, because you're like 7 or 8 or whatever, and you're like, I don't want to be smooched.
Yeah.
Jenny bought some artificial.
Did she?
Yeah, and we pinned it up under an archway, and sure enough, every time we walked under it, we give each other a little smooch.
See, I think that's so cute. And now it's almost for a different reason, right? Yeah. It's just like a tradition that you look forward to, and it's it's an innocent way to just show your appreciation, like we were talking about before the show. It's just like that little physical reminder that you can just use in your home, right? So,
and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with having another reason to give somebody a smooch.
Exactly. But that is the history of the mistletoe. Well, that wraps us up for this week. Thank you so much for joining us for this week's festive dive into mistletoe. Make sure to give us a follow on Spotify. We're on YouTube. We're also on Apple Podcasts. We have video now out, so you can take a look and see what we are doing in person. We have all the pictures from today's episode up as well. And be sure to follow us next week when we talk more festive content.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Bye, everyone.